إبراهيم رشده من قبل وكنا به عالمين إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ما هذه التماثيل التي أنتم لها عاكفون قالوا وجدنا آباءنا لها عابدين قال لقد كنتم أنتم وآباؤكم في ضلال مبين قالوا أجئتنا بالحق أم أنت من اللاعبين قال بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن وأنا على ذلكم من الشاهدين وتالله لأكيدن أصنامكم بعد أن تولوا مدبرين فجعلهم جذاذا إلا كبيرا لهم لعلهم إليه يرجعون قالوا من فعل هذا بآلهتنا إنه لمن الظالمين قالوا سمعنا فتى يذكرهم يقال له إبراهيم قالوا فأتوا به على أعين الناس لعلهم يشهدون قالوا أأنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون فرجعوا إلى أنفسهم فقالوا إنكم أنتم الظالمون ثم نكسوا على رؤوسهم لقد علمت ما هؤلاء ينطقون قال أفتعبدون من دون الله ما لا ينفعكم شيئا ولا يضركم أف لكم ولما تعبدون من دون الله أفلا تعقلون قالوا حرقوه وانصروا آلهتكم إن كنتم فاعلين قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم وأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم الأخسرين ونجيناه ولوطا إلى الأرض التي باركنا فيها للعالمين ووهبنا له إسحاق ويعقوب نافلة وكلا جعلنا صالحين
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is my microphone okay? Do you guys hear me fine? Okay, hold on. You guys can't hear, right? Hold on, can you guys react to that message if my microphone is fine, inshallah? Okay, it's work. Okay, that's cool, alhamdulillah ta'ala. And so, as always, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. I thought that today's event is a special event for multiple reasons. I thought we would start it off with a dua. We do all of this for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us steadfast upon the path of the righteous, so that we may not go astray, so that our intentions are correct. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow our speeches to be understood, so that they're spoken correctly and not any falsehood within them. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us for our mistakes, for every mistake is from ourselves and shaitan. طيب. So in the previous event, we discussed abuse, and abuse is a vast topic. We could go even deeper, but abuse was not the only type of thing Ibrahim went through. We will also, like today, we're going to discuss his relationship with not only his father, but also his community. صح? And we will see, okay, how did Ibrahim deal with the community? Because Ibrahim did not only deal with the community, he dealt against the entire world. Allah Azza wa Jal calls Ibrahim in the Quran an ummah, right? A nation. Not in a sense of he has a couple of people inside of him. No, in a sense of this one man did the job of an entire nation, right? He was one man against the world, literally, right? So he had himself, his father was against him, his entire community was against him, and they betrayed him and they sent it to who? Namrud. Who is Namrud? Namrud is a person who conquers the entire world. He's a kafir, okay? He's a kafir to say the least. And he conquered the entire world. And even the king of the world went against Ibrahim. So today, inshallah ta'ala, our brother Zaid will discuss that. Because this is also a kind of abuse, you know? And so let's see. And we will also discuss the loneliness Ibrahim felt. How did Ibrahim alayhi salam deal with this kind of situation? Because we are often, what's it called? Like an example, let's take reverts. Because reverts are often shunned because of the religion of being Muslims, right? Their family gives them a harsh time. The community might give them a harsh time, but this was another level Ibrahim felt so. And as Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran that in Ibrahim is a perfect example. So it's an excellent example that we could learn from. So, if you guys don't know, the prophets have a higher status than us normal humans, right? And within the prophets, there's 5 specific prophets that have even higher. They're like a special closest to Allah Azza wa Jal. And without a doubt, Ibrahim alayhi salam is the Khalil of Allah, the friend of Allah. And so, inshallah, Allah told us about his life not just for no reason. He told us so that we can learn, so that we can benefit, so that we can grow closer to him. Because if we follow the path of the Prophet, certainly our destination is Jannat al-Firdaus. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. I'm going to let our dear brother Zayd take over.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My brothers and my sisters. Okay. So before we move on for today's episode, a continuation of a series, you guys might notice that the side chat is blocked, right? And because that is because we don't want to, have free mixing in our events. So we've created 2 chats segregated for males and females. You can type it there, and we will check them, and you can ping us if you have any questions, inshallah. Anyways, continuing. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma ba'd. So today's episode, as guys might notice, is episode 3. And before we go on, before we continue, we're going to be highlighting and we'll be doing a little preview, a small preview of the events that we had yesterday and the 2 days before and the first episode. Because we believe these 2 episodes are really important. The main lessons are very important to understand before we move on. As you guys know, this story, as I mentioned in many parts of his points, right? This story is about a young man, and we'll be going through his journey from when he was a young man and all the way until he left this world and he returned to the Most High. And this young man lived in a society that is no different to today's society, a very similar materialistic society. He lived in a faraway land called Ur, ancient Babylonia. You guys might know it, but now you guys know it as modern day Iraq. And it's truly a story, an extraordinary story of an extraordinary man, a person of strength, resilience, honor, sacrifice. And overall, he was a strategist and a logician. And this status of this man, as I mentioned, right? The status of this man is so blessed and so honored, right? It's so blessed and honored that Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions him in several verses in the Holy Quran, and he constantly reminds the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about this man. You know, this man that we're talking about, Ibrahim alayhi salam or Abraham, is the second most mentioned prophet or man or person in the Quran after Musa alayhi salam. And to understand the importance, as I mentioned, he was one man ummah, he was termed as a one man ummah. The every single significant qualities or characteristics that you find in a nation, in one ummah, you find it in Ibrahim alayhi salam. And during the last two episodes, we understood this. That we understood him finding God, the logical arguments that he presented towards his people who shunned him. And the last episode, we witnessed a really heartbreaking moment when his own father rejected him and threatened to stone him to death. And through all of these sacrifices, he attained a position of honor and nobility. And as Allah Azza wa Jalla says to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, ثم أوهينا إليك أن اتبع ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. Then we reveal to you, O Prophet, to follow the religion of Abraham, or Ibrahim alayhi salam as we know him, inclining towards truth. And he was not of those who associate with Allah Azza wa Jalla, a man of true monotheism, and everybody knows and recognizes him for his monotheism. And in last episodes, we witnessed a really heartbreaking moment. Really heartbreaking moment. When he faced his father, his only source of support and help. And before he went and met the people of his society, the elites of his society, first met his father first. And what did his father tell him? Simple, a statement so simple. And we explored his harshness. And the recording is not uploaded, unfortunately, but you guys can if you guys want to get updated about this specific story, you guys can open a questions to get, inshallah. I'll link the channel inside chat. So they will preview, just reflecting on last episode. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he got rejected by his father, right? And his father rejected him in a harsh manner. And now this man is lost. He's all broken and he's sad. There is no one to help him, no one to guide him, no one to give him that support or push physically, right? Because his own father, his own family abandoned him. Now, when you stand up for something truth, something just, something honorable, and you will lose your only source of support, what do you do next? The nature of the human being is that when we are influenced by social pressure, when we are influenced by certain calamities in our lives, we often tend to give up. But the quality in Ibrahim alayhi salam is so profound that even though he was rejected by his own father, he stood up for the truth. And this is something that we need to learn and practice. If you are on the religion of Allah, if you're trying to practice and preach your faith, it does not matter even if the entire world rejects you. What you need to do is you need to keep going and prioritize your faith. And that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. He prioritized his faith, number one. And number two, he believed in Allah. He had tawakkul. And to understand the severity of this, there will be certain prophets, many prophets on the day of Qiyamah, on the day of judgment. And behind them will be no people at all, no nation, nothing, no one believed in them. But yet they remain strong and steadfast. And that is a quality that separates the believer from the disbeliever. Now, moving on to today's episode. as I mentioned, when a person, a man or a woman, when they stand for something that is right, when they stand for the truth, when they stand for justice and peace, there's going to be many obstacles that will face you. And among these obstacles is an obstacle that we find common in today's society. And this is an issue that will definitely break you if you do not know how to counter it. And that is definitely something that we call social pressure or peer pressure. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been subjected to a similar situation where you know that you're going to do something right, that you need to do something that is correct? However, the overwhelming amount of people around you and their difference of opinions, that they convinced you to not do it or to stay silent or to accept that what you did, what you're doing is something false. Sometimes just because everyone says or does something, we often feel like it must be something right. And this has a psychological effect on our mind. And what once used to be immoral and completely shunned away by society suddenly becomes normalized, right? And when it becomes normalized, we lose our way. And we see that so many times today in so many different areas. Black magic, LGBTQ, a famous topic, misguidance, music, everything stuff. Just because of social pressure, people lose their mind. There are people, just because of the delusions of the dunya and what the dunya promised them, they lose everything. Then what is the cure for this? Like, what is a thing that will allow us to fight against this? And Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions this in Surah Yusuf, an amazing verse. فصبر جميل والله المستعان على ما تصفون. Rather, your souls are enticed you have enticed you to something. So patience is most fitting, and Allah is the one sought for help against that which you describe. The first few verses, let's ponder upon that again. Rather, your souls have enticed you to something. Your souls have grabbed onto something. It could be the delusions of the dunya, it could be social pressure, peer pressure. But what is the solution other than tawakkul? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Patience is most fitting. You remain patient. Patience is not just staying there and enduring what you're going through. Patience is fighting against what is there. Patience is rejecting what is being offered to you. And patience is telling yourself, okay, what Allah has is better. Patience is a fight. It is a type of jihad. It is strength. It is not just staying there, ignoring everything. So patience is a hard thing. If someone tells you, I am being patient, I am staying patient in my own struggle, in my own hardship, they don't mean that they're just staying there silent, letting the world do what they want. No, what they mean is every day when they wake up, when they're being given a choice of either fighting or losing, they keep fighting. Every day when they wake up, they have two choices. Either they give in to the dunya and sin and lose their way, or they keep fighting and they come up victorious. And when someone tells you, I am being patient, I have sabr, that is what they mean, they fight. So this is a new perspective that I want you to have in mind before we move on. And as we move on, we mentioned two things, social pressure and peer pressure. It is important for us to learn and understand this in a deep perspective before we move on to today's story. Before we move on to how Ibrahim alayhi salam became known as a one-man ummah, a one-man nation. Right? So to put it simple, I want you to imagine this with me. When I repeat this, I want you to imagine. So social and peer pressure is like a crushing power. It is not seen, yet it is strong, it is palpable in every aspect of our life. At first, social pressure or peer pressure, it seems like friendly advice. It seems like it is something that wants the best for you. Or it might even seem as just the way things are. Right? It is a covering. It is a covering, a delusion that makes you think, okay, this is the way things are, this is the truth, but you're in the falsehood. However, slowly, whenever you give a chance for the social pressure, whether it be your friends that are surrounding yourself with, whether it be your family, the pressure slowly grows stronger and stronger with each minute that passes by. And every decision you make and every choice about how to act, how to walk, how to talk, how to look, it starts to resolve or revolve around what other people might think. The normal things I used to do, how do I eat? How do I walk? How do I talk? How do I wake up? How do I access the internet? Everything, it starts to revolve around what other people think. Okay, what if this person says this about me? What if I wear the thobe, yeah, to the masjid, and what if on the way some people looks at me and just, says something bad? What if I wear the hijab and some people just, just push me? What if they call me the wicked of all names, the wickedest of all names? What if they call me a terrorist? What if this? What if that? That is something that is dangerous, and that is the reason why believers leave Islam. Social pressure, peer pressure. Right? And you stop doing the things that are unique to yourself, unique to your religion, because you're afraid of being judged and left out. When you give in to social pressure, your dreams that you had as a child, as a teenager, or as a version of yourself, before you gave into social pressure, it takes a backseat. You start to pursue paths that others approve of rather than what you truly want to do. You try to become a people's pleaser. Your confidence begins to shrink slowly and slowly as you constantly compare yourself to other people and worry about not measuring up, not being up to standard. And the worst part, my brothers and my sisters, is due to social pressure, due to peer pressure. It may seem great, amazing at first, but inside of you, something starts to manifest. And what is that thing? It is loneliness. Even when you're surrounded by people, even if the world leaves you alone, you smile on the outside, to be honest. You smile on the outside, everything's happy, everything's going on. But inside, when you lock your door, when you go into your home, when you alone with yourself, you feel like you're betraying yourself. You feel terrible. You start to lose sight of who you truly are because you try to please other people. That is what social pressure is. And that was exactly what people or social pressure wanted to do to the man that we call the one man nation, the friend of Allah Azza wa Jal. And to be honest, thinking about it, just seeing or thinking of all those people who have been affected, amazing people, firm upon the deen, great on the da'wah scene, great on everything, but due to social pressure, due to something, due to the desire or the wants of other people, they started to lose their Islam. So many stories of people leaving Islam, so many stories of sisters taking off their hijab just because society around them doesn't want them to be unique or to follow Allah Azza wa Jal. So many reverts that we have seen leave Islam just because the people around them wanted them to obey another creator or another version of a creator or another ideology, or being surrounded by Christian friends, them showing full support to you to get you out of your deen. That is how bad society is now. And this pressure, talking about how great it could destroy you, let's talk about it again. When it leaves you empty, when it robs you of your true self and it leaves you empty, it sometimes it pushes you to end yourself. So many people say, because when you try to lose other people, when you try to chase something other than Allah, you become a depressed person. You have a depressed life, right? And as I mentioned, the Khalilullah, the one man nation, perfect example of a true monotheist, a noble child, a noble fighter, a noble husband, and a noble father. This is exactly what he faced 1,000 years ago. And that is what I said in the beginning, that society today is not different to society back in the day. They were a materialistic society and the technology was advanced. So according to them, they were one of the advanced societies, ancient Babylonia or Ur. Right? We'll cover this deeper, inshallah. But there's another concept that I want to draw your attention to, a similar concept to social pressure and peer pressure. Here's a question. So how many a time that when you live the moment, when you live your life, when you live the moment, for example, what you knew with certainty in some part of your life, or 2 years ago or some years ago, you knew with certainty that something was wrong, that something was immoral. However, a few years down the line, everybody seems to think that it is good, that it is moral, that it is right. Something that was normal and accepted, or immoral and not accepted, shunned away from society 30, 40 years ago, is now accepted. This, my brothers and sisters, is an important concept that we need to understand, and that is called classical conditioning. What is classical conditioning? It is when something is repeated to your mind again and again and again, when it is being forcefully fed into your mind, you forget how bad and severe it is. The issue is, the bad thing, it becomes normalized, right? And what is the cure for this, as I mentioned? What is the cure? What allows us to stay away from this? It's patience, number one. And the other thing is comparing your life right now, the benefits that you're going to receive right now, and the benefits that you're going to receive in Jannah. Envisioning Jannah, just keeping that in your mind, forcing yourself through your struggle by thinking of Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ, in an authentic narration, is saying, verily, the small space of a whip in paradise is better than the entire world and everything in it. So what you need to do to tackle this issue is to constantly remind yourself of the verses of paradise, and you prioritize, you analyze, okay, is the world better or is Jannah better? Will I lose Jannah for temporary enjoyment, or will I lose temporary enjoyment for Jannah? The righteous among us, the most wise among us, they know this. They know this. And they stay away from the bad. However, the second type of people, they're wise, they have knowledge, but they fall. They sin. They know the truth, but they always fall back to it. They know Jannah is better. They know that the world is bad. However, no matter how much they remind themselves, they always keep falling. The solution for this is to remove the triggers that makes you fall to this, and that is a whole another topic on its own. Inshallah, will be covered very soon later. And the other type of person, ignorant, turned away from Allah Azza wa Jal. And and that those are the people, the example of that person, those people are the people of Ur. They are the people who oppose Ibrahim alayhi salam. Anyways, let's talk about loneliness. As I mentioned, loneliness is a very important aspect, and Ibrahim alayhi salam faced loneliness. So when a child is born into this world, loneliness is an emotion that you and I, that everybody will undoubtedly, inevitably face. We have no choice. Even if we have everyone by our side, even if we have no one by our side, even if you're the head of the table, the top of the pyramid, if you're in palaces of gold and silver, it is something that you will definitely face. So much so that the best of creation, after Prophet ﷺ, faced. And that is loneliness. And the loneliness that Ibrahim alayhi salam faced, let's divide it into two. It is loneliness. Give me a second. Check my DMs quickly. Okay. Anyways, back to the topic. So loneliness, this type of loneliness is two types. It's of two, right? So, so the first type of loneliness is when you're physically away from people, when you're physically or mentally away from people, like you're really lonely, introverted stuff, or just you don't have anyone by your side. However, the second type of loneliness, it is harder to cope with. And this type of loneliness is when you're surrounded by people, when you have people around you, but you feel like a stranger. You feel alone, even though you have so many people around you. And we will understand this, right? And Ibrahim alayhi salam, let's analyze his life a bit let's just reflect on last episode, right? The first type of loneliness is he felt this when, His own family and his kin, his own blood, abandoned him. When his father threatened to stone him to death, when his father and his mother and everyone just, abandoned him, he had no one. The entire society was against him. He was physically and mentally away from his family. But what did he do then? He found patience. He said, okay, Allah Azza wa Jalla is much better than me. Even if they are not by my side, it doesn't really matter to me. That it doesn't really matter to me. And I will stay firm, right? And that is the first type of loneliness that he faced. And since he was abandoned, he was now more prone to the violence and the clothes of the elites of the people of that time, of the people of Ur. Why? Because Ibrahim alayhi salam, even though he disbelieved, he was still protected by his father because he was an elite himself. Ibrahim alayhi salam was an elite. But when his father abandoned him and he said, Ya Ibrahim, I will stone you to death if you don't get out of from my sight. The moment he said that word, he lost his own support. And now he's lonely. However, the second type of loneliness when he met is that when he had people around him, even though he had his father around him, even though he had his entire town or society or everyone by his side, he felt as a stranger among them. But amongst them, he felt like a stranger. Right? And there were so many people that wanted to kill him. And this thing that shunned him and broke him because he was physically closer to them. He met them face to face, but he felt alone. He felt lonely, right? However, throughout this entire issue, this entire situation, there's something that made him strong. He remained keen and he remained steadfast, as we mentioned in the last episode. And Allah mentions in the Holy Book, the Al-Furqan, about Ibrahim alayhi salam and the position of honor and nobility that he got as a reward. And he mentions in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِّمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لله وهو محسن واتبع ملة عبادي واتخذ الله إبراهيم. And who is better in religion than one who submits himself to Allah while being a doer of good and while being a person who follows the religion of Ibrahim, inclining towards truth. And Allah took Ibrahim as an intimate friend. Two main things that we need to understand from this point. The first main thing is that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He termed this as a religion of Ibrahim. Why religion of Ibrahim? Why not religion of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Why not religion of Nuh? Why not religion of Musa alayhi salam? Why not the religion of Isa alayhi salam? Why Ibrahim alayhi salam? Multiple reasons. Because of his strict devotion, because of his pure monotheistic beliefs, because of him shunning idols, and his attempts at multiple attempts to get his people away from polytheism, which we will explore later in this episode, and because of his resilience and so many tales that was yet to come, Allah Azza wa Jalla named it the religion of Ibrahim or Abraham alayhi salam. So if you look at Christianity or Judaism, they still claim to follow the religion of Abraham. Even a normal theist, they claim to follow the religion of Abraham. Why is this? Because Allah Azza wa Jalla elevated them. Even though the Christians and the theists and the Jews, they don't follow the religion of Abraham, they claim to do it. But because they show respect to them. Exalted was Ibrahim alayhi salam's name, but we only know that that Muslims, that Islam is the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Before we move on, I believe die snuck die.
Okay, that one was good. That one was good. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. And so I just wanted to say that loneliness is often accompanied by many feelings, including fear, anxiety, depression, and a lot more. And without a doubt, Ibrahim was very lonely. Not in a sense of uh, he was sad about it. No, in the sense of he barely had any people with him. Did you guys know that Ibrahim barely had any followers? Like from the time he left his city, he only had two. He had Sarah, his wife, and Lut, right? That's the only two people that converted a very small amount of followers during that time. And the way Ibrahim alayhi salam felt must have been devastated. Subhanallah, just think about it. In Surah Maryam, Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. And mentioned in the book of the story of Ibrahim, he was truly a man of truth and a prophet, right? And then Allah goes on to narrate the story. Remember when he said to his father, "O father, why do you worship what can neither hear you, nor see you, nor benefit you at all?" So he's trying to give da'wah to his father. Then he says, "O father, I've certainly received some knowledge which you did not receive. So follow me, I will guide you to the straight path." He goes on, "O father, do not worship shaitan. Surely Shaitan is rebellious against the most compassionate. O father, I truly fear that you'll be touched by a torment, a punishment from the most merciful, and become Shaitan's companion in hell." You see how much effort Ibrahim alayhi salam is trying to put into giving da'wah to his father. This not only happened to Ibrahim. Let's compare the life of Ibrahim to the life of who? The companions of the Prophet and the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam himself. They were 10 years in Mecca. They were abused by the community. They were harmed. Some of them were killed, and a bunch of things happened. Right? The story is long. And during the entire time, Allahu A'lam what kind of feelings they felt. But what is special about the story of Ibrahim and the story of the companions and the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wassalam, is that they were steadfast. Wallahi, they did not give up. And let's compare that to today's day and age, to our own lives. Notice how even a small challenge can make us give up on our dreams, right? Like an example, we have people coming up to us and saying, this and this is about Islam, that and that. We've had bunch of people leave Islam simply because they could not bear the pressure. Now imagine Ibrahim against the entire world, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, subhanallah, wherever he traveled, he was not safe. As I mentioned above, Namrud conquered the entire world. He had people under his wing constantly, right? And what is very interesting is that when Ibrahim alayhi salam, he gave da'wah to his father got sick of him. He gave da'wah to his community got sick of him, so they sent him to the king of the world. Now he's in front of the man that could just kill him whenever he wanted. So this man, like if I was in his situation, and may Allah forgive us all, I would have just said lies. Like I could not have stood up, right? Because I'm weak and so are we all. But if you look at the story of Ibrahim, Namrud questioned him about his Lord. And Allah Azza wa Jal records the debate in the Quran. You can read it anytime you want. So Namrud asks about his Lord. And Ibrahim responds by saying, "My Lord is the one that gives life and takes life." Namrud was arrogant to respond by saying, "I can give life and take life." So he took two prisoners and he ordered the execution of one of them. So one of them died and he allowed the other one to go free. Ibrahim, and we all know this is not what Ibrahim meant, right? This is not what we mean by Allah can give life and take life. So Ibrahim, instead of arguing on that point, Ibrahim continued again, instead of just giving up, he continued by saying, "My Lord can rise the sun from the west and the east. Can you do that? Can you rise the sun from the east?" Okay, the west. And he was steadfast. Namrud was angry. So he ordered a tall fire to be built and throw Ibrahim within it. He could during this entire time he saw the fire being built. They saw people taking the wood, burning the fire, allowing the fire to heat up through days and days. We can talk about the deeper story about the ikhtilaf, all that later, but imagine yourself in that position, my brothers and sisters. Imagine yourself in this position. He had no followers. He was alone. He did not give up. He was steadfast upon the message he was given from Allah Azza wa Jal. During this entire time, when he saw the fire being built, I guarantee I can imagine that Ibrahim alayhi salam was still trying to give da'wah or still praising Allah Azza wa Jal and not changing in any way. So then they throw him into the fire. And subhanallah, Allah knows best what he went through, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, peace be upon Ibrahim and what's it called? And may the fire be cool upon him. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alam. But I also want to connect it to the story of Musa and Harun. When Musa and Harun were appointed as prophets, Allah Azza wa Jal, and yeah, when they were appointed as prophets, Allah Azza wa Jal commanded them, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go both of you to Pharaoh, for he has truly transgressed all bounds. You know, and then Allah says, speak to him gently, perhaps so he may be mindful of me or fearful of my punishment. And then Harun and Musa, out of their human nature, they responded by saying, our Lord, we fear that he may be quick to harm us or act in his like desires to harm us, you know? So Allah Azza wa Jalla responded by saying, قال, what's it called? I'm sorry, I'm losing the Arabic. Allah reassured them, have no fear, I am with you, hearing and seeing. SubhanAllah. Allah Azza wa Jal did not only reassure the Prophet Musa and Harun, He reassured who? Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq when they're alone in the cave. So what does this teach us? It teaches us that even during the lonely times, as long as we stick to the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal, we cannot be alone. You know, how can we feel alone when the most merciful is with us, when the most compassionate is with us, when the Lord that knows us best and still does not leave us is with us? You know, no matter the amount of mistakes we do, Allah Azza wa Jalla does not leave you as long as you do not leave Him. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He also teaches us a lesson for the Muslims in this day and age to not be weak, you know? To not be weak, because in this day and age, and right now I just want to specifically speak to the men. In the men in this day and age, we've become weak. There's no rijal anymore, right? One woman or one man says to us a few words, and we change our opinion. We go from this masculine position we had, and we're leaning towards the feminine. We're not attaining our original self. We want to be like others. While Ibrahim said to his father, why do you worship something that cannot benefit you, which only leads you to hell? In short, we worship is many things, and worship is also to obey something in a sense, to absolute obedience. That's worship as well. And this day and age, our absolute obedience is going to the Western society. Why should you listen to the Western society? How dare we as Muslims abandon the Quran and Sunnah and go look for what the kuffar say? Who cares about them? Like, respectfully, who cares what their teachings are? We have the Quran, the Sunnah, the teachings of our Prophet. We have the words from the one that created us all, and we go to the kuffar. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, this does not make sense to me. And you can use this in your day-to-day life. Whenever you're in trouble, do you want to go and seek these kuffar therapists that are only going to put you on medication? Or are you going to seek the help of people that cannot benefit you in the akhirah? Seeking help from the Muslims is good. They are people that can give you da'wah, they can give you the message of Islam, they can cure you according to the Quran and Sunnah. However, the kuffar, they will not do this. They will abuse you, they will use you, and they will put you through medication because they don't see any afterlife. They don't see the world the way we see it. So whenever, I want you guys to know this, whenever you live your life, whatever you obey, whatever you do, is this according to the Quran and Sunnah? Because obedience is an act of worship. Who are you obeying? Are you obeying your desires? Because worshipping your desires is the most stupid thing. You're just worshipping yourself. What benefit can you give yourself? Are you worshipping your community? What benefit can they give? And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. I think I got a bit off topic, so I'm gonna let our brother Zaid take over.
Allahumma barik min shariat. It's amazing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Continuing from Dai's point, I believe he made some amazing points, my brother. Picking off on his point of loneliness, alhamdulillah. We mentioned before we left off, that Ibrahim alayhi salam, his honor was raised and elevated. It was increased to the point where he was given nobility that no man was ever given before. No man or no any woman. But how did he achieve this? What is the position? Okay, other than submission, other than monotheism, other than humbling himself, other than facing the oppression, other than just destroying society's motives against them, what is that one thing that allowed him to achieve this nobility and honor? It is simple, and Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ نُورِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ ملكوت السماوات والأرض وليكون من الموقنين. And thus do we show Abraham, the realm of the heavens and the earth, that he would be among the certain in faith. This is something that you and I must understand. Ibrahim alayhi salam was shown every single sign, the heavens and the earth. So many signs. He was shown the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything was presented before him. However, what made him distinguish between the right and the wrong? And it is something that we covered in the very first episode when we discussed finding ourselves, finding our creator. And that is an amazing thing. Give me a second. I believe I found. Mhm. Okay, that is an amazing thing. And that is the fitrah, right? That is the ability, your innate disposition that allows you, that gives you the ability to distinguish between the right and the wrong. And there is an authentic narration by Hudhayfa, may Allah be pleased with him, an amazing person, amazing in Islamic scholarship. And he was asked, Ya Hudhayfa, what is the worst fitna? What is the worst fitna? And he replied, the worst fitna is that when good and evil is presented to you, when it is placed in front of you, when you are given the choice to choose between the good and the evil, the worst fitna is when you do not know which among them is the good and the evil. Is when you do not know which among them you should follow. And what is the cause of this? What blocks your mind, that blocks yourself from choosing this? And that is a corrupt fitrah. A corrupt fitrah. How does a corrupt fitrah come from? Many things. Number one, when it is when you're being bombarded by information, by other faiths, other religions. And the second thing is when you are insincere to the core. When you're insincere to the minutest of detail, to your core, your heart, you're really insincere from the very bottom, no matter what you try, no matter how much you try, your fitrah will always be corrupt. And the only way to make it uncorrupt is by purifying your soul, to purifying your heart. And Ibrahim alayhi salam always had a pure fitrah. And he used his own intellect that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave him to distinguish between the right and the wrong. Allah Azza wa says, the second part, that he showed Ibrahim these signs so that he may be certain in faith. When signs are presented to you, when you see the sky, when you see the stars, when you see the moon, when you see the night sky or the gardens you're in, or the oceans or the clouds or the birds, looking at them, when you look at them, you must be able to increase yourself in faith. How do you do that? You ponder upon it. You ask yourself, where did this come from? Can this come from nothing? Can everything that I see, the magnificence that I see, can it be a product of randomness, of pure randomness? No. The more you see it, the more you understand that everything is created from a creator. And therefore, by pondering, by understanding, by enjoying yourself, by throwing yourself into these situations that you ponder around on nature, you increase your faith. And that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. And that is what made him firm And that is what made him realize, okay, when I have the creator of the heavens and the earth by my side, who am I to feel sad when no one else is by my side? If a billion men of the entire world, consisting of the people now and the people of the past and the people of the future, if every one of them were together against me today, as long as I believe in Allah, I am victorious. They can't do anything. They can't even lay a scratch on me. And that is how you increase yourself in faith. And that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. And that is how, my brothers and sisters, he tackled loneliness. He tackled this thing that broke him down to the minute. Because this pondering, it led to him obeying Allah. That led to him being called the father of monotheism. Because in order to firm upon something, you need to know the science. You need to fall deep in love with. In order to be a true monotheist, you need to fall in love with monotheism, with the Creator, right? And that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam did, and everything that came after was a product of this. It came from this. And as Diane mentioned, there's so many other points. If I were to connect them, if I were to talk about them, it would take me days and days. Amazing points. Oh, mashallah, just my heart was humbled listening to him. Amazing guy. He's a true follower of the path of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Moving on. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to expand on something. When he was rejected, Ibrahim alayhi salam was about to face his people. Right? And there were two instances that is mentioned when he faced his people. Right? The first instance was when he was presented with, arguments, flimsy arguments by people. We call it the first appeal in history. Right? So what they used to do is that they came to him and said, Ibrahim, why are you turning away from your Lord, or your lords, your gods, the ones that we worship, right? And Ibrahim alayhi salam said, it's an amazing statement. The more I listen to this, the more amazing this becomes. And Ibrahim alayhi salam said, can they, the idols, hear you when you call upon them, or can they benefit or harm you? When they came up with these flimsy arguments, what he did is he presented to them logical arguments. He defeated them logically. He defeated them intellectually. He defeated them in every single aspect possible. And then the people, they resorted to blind faith, and they said, okay, we follow what our forefathers follow. So why don't you follow what our forefathers follow? So they kept trying to introduce, to force this belief on Ibrahim alayhi salam, classical conditioning, as I mentioned. The more you repeat this again and again and again and again, the more you become tolerant towards it. The more you accept it, the more you believe in it. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, pure fitra, through monotheism, he pondered and he realized the value of it. And therefore he remained strong, therefore he remained steadfast, and therefore he was able to battle social conditioning. He was alone. He did not have anyone by his side, but he was alone. So then people, they were like, there's no point arguing with you, right? And then they left. And when they left, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he thought to himself, and he said, there's no way that I could help them. There's no way that I could help them. I tried to help them intellectually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I tried to do all I can. I tried to them bit everything. But nothing I did actually helped them. So I need to come up with a better plan. I need to come up with something amazing, something better. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam was always the type of person, he always had a plan. If plan A did not work, C. And what was his plan? His secondary plan. What was his plan next? If he can't convince them, if he can't get them to leave their beliefs, then he will show people how stupid and nonsensical their beliefs are. And then when people disperse, Ibrahim alayhi salam swore to himself, وَتَاللَّهِ لَأَكِيدَنَّ أَصْنَامَكُمْ بَعْدَ أَنْ تُوَلُّوا مُدْبِرِينَ. And I swear by Allah, I swear by the most magnificent, the creator of you and I, to you disobey, I swear by Allah, I will surely plan and plot against your idols. against your idols are turned and going away. He was firm and he was strong, and he made an oath. He was really angry at that point. He was really angry at that point. So he had a plan. He had a target. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam told himself, okay, there will be a festival. There will be a festival where the people and the priests, they will bring all of their goods and they will display it. And believe it or not, there is a funny tradition that they used to bring the people, the king of the people at that. And if they slap the king and the king cries, they would think that the god actually chose him. That is a nonsensical the beliefs were. That if you slap the king and he cried, then God chose him. What is the basis? Nonsense. Nonsense is his basis. So Ibrahim alayhi salam had a plan. He was like, okay, let them come. So when people were away, when people placed their goals and they left, so it was placed in a way where all the small goals are placed side by side, and when you face forwards, that in front of them all, the middle of them all, in front of them all, lied a big idol. And this idol or this god, the people called it Murdoch, right? It was a big god. It was a grand god of that time, one of the grand gods. And when they placed it, what Ibrahim alayhi salam did was he took a sledgehammer and he was like, hey, "This is once and for all. I'm standing up to my Lord." But the thing you must understand is when he went forth to break the idols, you must understand is that you know it is not like you and I have the ability to go and break the idols. Of we can't just go into some random person's house or random person's place of worship and just break the idols. No, we can't do that. There are exceptions, but Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was an elite. He was among themselves. He was a person whose father manufactured idols. He used to help him sell idols, but in a really diplomatic way. He made his father think that he's selling idols, but in reality, he just defilmed the idols. And he was an elite, and he was oppressed, so he had to do something, and so he did. And he thrashed it. And before he thrashed the idols, there's an amazing verse, always beautiful, amazing. It's mentioned, and when Ibrahim alayhi salam, he stealthily and advanced towards the god. It's an amazing word, amazing verse. فراغ إلى عاتهم فقال على تاكل. Ibrahim alayhi salam, whenever he used to do something, before he used to do something, he always used to talk to himself. That was the nature of this great man. So he said to himself, and then he talked, he was like talking to himself and the false gods, the small gods, and he said, he turned to the gods and said, "Do you not eat? Like, do you not eat? ما لكم لا تنطقون?" What is wrong with you that you cannot speak? What is wrong with you that you cannot speak? So you can't eat and you can't speak. فراغ عليهم ضربا اليمين, and he turned upon them a blow from his right hand which carried the sledgehammer. So he asked the gods, "Do you not eat? Do you not speak? If you can't eat or speak, then you're not a god. And you won't be any benefit to the people." And then he smashed the gods one by one, breaking them, crumbling down. And then he did something. He went into a point of no return. So whatever he did next, it was really scary because the people were really frightened. They were really angered. And if you put ourselves in Ibrahim alayhi salam's position, abandoned by so many, and he was broken, and you break the idols of such an elite group that used to use the idols to control the people, right? We would normally run away. That is our nature. I'm telling you right now, that is our nature. But he was a man who was so strong and firm, even though he was a young guy. He was young, very young, around like 13 or 14 years old, an age that we call a teenager. Some historians argue that he was a preteen, that he was not even a teenager in the first place. He was around the age that we call 12. Right? And that was the boldness of this man. And then, give me a second. Give me a second. Die, knock. This guy do something. That DMs. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to continue, so I just want to finish it off. I had to, move my charge up. Anyways, so when he broke the idols, and then he left the place, he just left the sledgehammer on top of the neck of the big idol, Murdoch, as he called him. And when he left the place, the priests, they came, and next moments passed, and the priests, they rushed to this place. They rushed to the place. They kept the idols, and they were mad. They were angry. They were like, shut. The anger that they had, it was so grand that they could, kill the person who broke it. And this anger is displayed amazingly in the Quran. I said, قالوا من فعل هذا بآله لمن الظالمين. They said in a firm voice, who has done this to our gods? Who has done this to our lords? Who has broken the idols one by one? Who has broken broken our gods that we worship? Indeed, he is of the wrongdoer. Indeed, that person who broke these idols, he is among the wrongdoers. And at this time, everybody knew of the tale of Ibrahim alayhi salam, a man who rejected society and the ideologies, and they quickly said, قالوا سمعنا فتى يذكرهم يقال له. They said, we heard about a young man, mention them, and this young man is called Ibrahim. And they said, the priests and the elites at that position, they said, قالوا فعطوا به قالوا فعطوا به على عين يشهدون. They said, bring him before the eyes of the people, that they may testify. We're going to hold a court. We're going to hold a court session, a court of justice. So bring that guy here. But before we move on, I want to move backwards a bit to the words that I use. When they were angry, at this specific verse, قالوا من فعل هذا بأنه لمن الظالمين. They said, who has done this to our gods? Who has destroyed the idols? But in reality, you know what they meant? In reality, what they meant is that who is trying to destroy our kingdom and power? Who is trying to expose our plots and our secrets? That is what they truly meant. To the people, because the people of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the elites, it was just a plan and a plot to control the people at the bottom of the pyramid. So in reality, whenever they try to be firm or act like they're firm upon the religion of them that they created, the polytheism that is based on astrology, then in reality they meant who is trying to destroy our kingdom and our power that we tried to create. That is what they truly mean, and this is what I want you to truly understand, a deep understand. Because whenever they utter a word about their faith, what they truly mean is their desires and their strategy that they wanted implemented. Right? So when Ibrahim alayhi salam was summoned to the court, look, he was summoned because he disobeyed them. And then when he was summoned, they asked him, "Oh Ibrahim, have you done this to our gods? Have you really broken our gods?" Because they knew that he was a son of an Elite. He was a son of a person who manufactured his own idols. He was an Elite himself. So he said, "Have you really done this to our gods, O Ibrahim?" And Ibrahim, alayhi salam, being honest and sarcastic, he said, "Why don't you ask the bigger one? Why don't you ask Murdoch? The sledgehammer is around his neck, so why don't you ask him?" So when he said this, this is a funny part. This is where the disbelievers were left dumbfounded. Because they realized, they knew, okay, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he has seen through our plan and he has seen through our plots. And there's nothing that we could do. There's nothing that we could do to convince him. So if we can't convince him to believe in our God, then we must come to a different term. We must try to manipulate him. Right? We must try to manipulate him. So what they came and they said, ثم نكس على رؤوسهم لقد علمت ما هؤلاء يقول. And then they reversed themselves and they said, Ibrahim, you have already known that these do not speak. And they told Ibrahim, yeah, Ibrahim, you know this from the beginning, you know these do not speak. And then Ibrahim said, then why do you worship instead of Allah Azza wa Jal? Why do you worship something that doesn't have any harm or benefit to you? So they tried to manipulate Ibrahim alayhi salam. They tried to get him to come to terms with something. But Ibrahim alayhi salam said he used logic and intellect. He displayed that he didn't want anything to do with them. And then he said, then why do you worship something that is not any benefit to you or any harm to you? Then they realized that this guy is far too gone. There's nothing that we could do. So when they slowly tried to manipulate him again and again and again, Ibrahim alayhi salam, what they used to do is that he stood up and he said, "Oh people of Ur, oh gentlemen and ladies, listen to me. These people are trying to manipulate me. These people are trying to get me to agree with them. These people are trying to convince me to believe in this. So do not believe in them." So when they try to manipulate Ibrahim alayhi salam, he stood firm and he said to the people, "Oh people, this guy, these people, they try to manipulate me. So do not listen to him. Do not listen to them." And he tried to expose them. So, in terms of retaliation, because the elites, they could not afford the religion and their tactics to be exposed. So what they did is they stood up and they said, "Do not listen to this man. This man is a deviant. This man is a person who rejected the faith of your forefathers, of what you and I believed in. And this guy is a person who caused deviance among us. So unite for your faith, unite for our kingdom, unite for what we have created, and unite for our legacy is. Unite for the legacy, the purpose, or the very reason for the legacy of your forefathers and what was yours. This guy is surely trying to ruin you and I, so unite." So they try to use this, classical conditioning, forcing this belief onto the people to convince him that Ibrahim alayhi salam was wrong. So they had to defend themselves. So they had to resort to these tactics, and this is what they did. And next, what they did is that they said in harshness, قالوا حرقوا وانصروا آلهتكم إن كنتم فاعلين. They said, burn him and support your gods if you were to act. If you are a believer, then burn him. But now I want to take a small pause before we move on to the next aspect. Because he is now about to face something terrible. He was faced with emotional abuse, family abuse, mental abuse, but now he's about to face physical abuse. He's truly going to be abused and burnt, because their culture is whoever dares to disobey our gods and dares to riot, we punish them by death. But there's something that we need to understand first. My brothers and my sisters, if Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and I want you to listen to this, if the one who created you and I, if he wants to make a leader out of someone, if he wants to make a leader out of someone, he will make him or her face an oppressive power. And from that situation of hardship, there will arise a hero, a legend, a person upon righteousness. And from this oppression that he was about to face arose the one-man nation that we're talking about. We can take a look at multiple stories for this. The story of Musa alayhi salam. He was a hero, a legend, that we mention his name almost every single day when we talk about him. The man whose name is most mentioned in the Quran, and the second is Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he was sent to the house of Fir'aun at such a young age. He grew up in the house of Fir'aun under Allah's protection. And he was faced with tyranny and oppression through his entire life. And through his resilience and perseverance and strength and sacrifice and his conviction and belief, firm belief, and his desire to fight against oppression, there arose a hero. There arose a hero. And the same thing is about to happen to Ibrahim alayhi salam. So whenever you're about to go through oppressive power, oppressive authority, whether it be in your own family, know that Allah wants to make a leader out of you, a person of honor and strength out of you, and that is why you're being sent against or being tested by an oppressive power. Whether you're in a country or a land or a place where the Muslims are being tortured, killed, where we cannot practice or preach our religion openly, when we are faced with such an oppressive power, the people who go through it and fight to the top and firmly believes in Allah, those are the people who will truly become heroes. And this is the point that I really want you to understand, really want you to think before we move on. And now, as we move on to the story, as we continue to the story, when the elites of that time ordered the fire to be burnt, the fire to be lit, and Ibrahim alayhi salam to be thrown to the fire, every single person from the ancient city of Babylon, it was a city of, the historians say, 5,000 people. They gathered every piece of wood and every piece of fuel from all different sources that they could find, and they put it all in a huge ditch, and they lit up the fire. And the fire was so great that historians say that you can see the fire from a half a kilometer away. It burned so high as if it was buildings on top of each other. And since they knew that they cannot go closer to the fire, that they would burn, if they go closer to the fire, what they did was they built a catapult. And they tied Ibrahim alayhi salam into the catapult. And when Ibrahim alayhi salam was laying there helplessly, he looked around and he turned back. His family was not there. His father was not there. His friends were not there. No one was there. But then he remembered his purpose in life. He remembered the very thing that got him so far. And that was his belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. And then he remembered the creator of the heavens and the earth, Malik al-Mulk, the one who is in control of everything. And we are about to see the example that I use in action. Whether it be the entire world against you, as long as you have Allah by your side, you are the winner. And we are about to see it in the flesh, in this story. So then, when Ibrahim was died, the people approached him and they said, "Ya Ibrahim, you still have one more chance. Why don't you give up? Why don't you accept?" And they said, and Ibrahim said, "I will not accept your path. Even if you throw me into the fire, I will never accept your path, and I will stay firm upon my faith, even if I die." And the Elites got mad and they commanded the people to throw him into the fire, and thus he was thrown into the fire. He was thrown into the flames. What happened then? Ibrahim alayhi salam uttered a statement, a phrase so popular and wide that we know today. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah alone is sufficient for me. And that was his faith the best. At times of adversity and hardship, he relied on Allah and he said, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is better. And Allah is alone and He is sufficient for me. And when he was thrown into the fire, when he was thrown into the fire, Allah Azza wa Jal, and this is how He performs miracles. This is how He makes examples for the people. And this is how Allah shows people signs so that we could ponder and think about. And when he was thrown into the fire, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, قلنا يا نار وسلاما على. Allah said, O fire, be coolness and peaceful upon Ibrahim. If Allah Azza wa Jalla used the phrase cold, some scholars say that the fire would immediately become cold, so much so to the point that it would freeze Ibrahim alayhi salam. But Allah Azza wa Jalla used the word peaceful along with cold and peaceful. And when he used the word cold and peaceful, it was as if, it was enjoyable for Ibrahim alayhi salam. In the world that we live in today, where people, scientists create something called the blue fire. That if you, I think it's called the blue fire. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But if you, place your hand on top of that fire, it does not burn you. If human beings are able to create that, then it is an easy refutation for any atheists or any people who argue. Why can't Allah Azza wa Jal create a fire that does not burn? And from this emerged the one-man nation, an example to all believers, and from this emerged two people who believed in him. And also from this emerged the true nature of the disbelievers, ignorance. So the fire kept burning and burning and burning and burning. And the more it burned, the people were eager to see what is remaining, the remnants of this person who disobeyed their lords, the remnants of this person. And they were sat there, they were waiting for. Some people say more than hours, some people say it could be even days, historians argue. But when the fire cooled down and it eventually burnt out, the one-man nation, the friend of Allah, Khalilullah alayhi salam, he walked out of the fire, untouched by the flames. Because the flames only burned the ropes and the catapult that he was tied to, but it did not burn him. So he walked out and it stunned the crowd. You know that moment when the world is against you and the world wants you and everyone has expectations against you. You do something that stuns the people, that stuns the crowd. And they're like speechless, dumbfounded, dumbstruck. How satisfying is that feeling? The people who wanted badness for you, who wanted death for you, who wanted evil for you, how satisfying is that feeling when you surprise them with something and you leave them silent? That silence is a symphony, a beautiful rhythm, a beautiful tone to our hearts. And that is exactly what happened when Ibrahim alayhi salam walked out of the fire. And when he walked out of the fire, everybody started calling him, okay, he is a sorcerer, he's a philosopher, he is a person who practices magic, right? He's a person who does sihr. All of these mediocre, all these nonsensical statements that they put out because they refuse to believe in this. However, among these people who did not believe in them, there were two who believed. Two who were really shocked. Two people whose heart reached the message of Allah. Miracle. And it was a miracle upon a miracle. The miracle of the fire and the miracle of their hearts being humbled when seeing a miracle of their God, of their Lord. And the first of them was his nephew, Lut alayhi salam, Prophet Lot. And we know his story, and we will discuss his story in depth in August, inshallah, when we cover the topic of LGBTQ and homosexuality. I want you guys to join that event, inshallah. And the second person was a woman named Sarah, alayhi salam, a woman of honor and nobility who would later soon become his wife. And then they would go on a chapter where Ibrahim alayhi salam will go on. He will grow up from being a teenager and he will enter adulthood. And in the next episode, we will cover this, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam as a noble husband and Sarah alayhi salam as a noble wife. A beautiful story, to be honest. Now, moving back, I mentioned that when Allah Azza wa Jalla wants to make a hero out of a person, a leader out of a person, right? He will make him face an oppressive power. And this was exactly what he was about to face when he was summoned into the court of Nimrod, or Namrud. Right? And this was something really interesting. Is because when a false power, when a power, a tyrannical power, when a false power, it feels threatened. When it feels threatened, they try to bring that person in and they try to influence this person. Because Nimrod, he knew that sooner or later, due to what happened, people will realize that the God that they worship is bad and it is false. And they would return to the path of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he wanted to expose him. He wanted to debate Ibrahim alayhi salam and prove him wrong. But little did he know he was getting into his own destruction, his own humiliation. And that was what he was about to face. And when he was summoned in front of Nimrod, I was not going to say. Okay, forgive me for that. When he was summoned in front of Nimrod, Ibrahim alayhi salam understand his mentality. He is now facing the king of the, as I said, the king of the world at that time. And if you and I, we were supposed to face such a kingdom, a king, we would feel frightened. We would feel threatened. Right? We would feel scared. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he just walked out of the fire. And he was strong and he was firm on his belief. And what he did was something amazing. And when, give me a second. I need to do something. Okay. I'm just plugging my charger in. Second. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So and then Namrud, he summoned Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to the palace. And he said, Nimrod said, why don't you believe in our God? Why do you believe in your God? What is the reason you believe in it? Okay, tell me about your God so maybe I would believe in it. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, I believe in a God who gives life and death. And in Nimrod, he said, even I give life and death. And he presented the argument that I presented, the issue that I presented. And he had people, fight themselves, kill each other, showing that he too could grant life and death. But in reality, that was not what Ibrahim alayhi salam meant. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he did not have time for these, flimsy, stupid, nonsensical arguments, these barbaric arguments. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he used his intellect and he presented an argument. He said, Allah Azza wa Jal, my Lord, he brings up the sun from the east and he sets it from the west. So if you are a God, if you are a creator, why don't you bring it up from the west and then make it set in the east? Right? So make it rise from the west. And Ibrahim alayhi salam challenged Namrud. And this ability by Ibrahim alayhi salam, this moment when he spoke such a word, he defended himself and he was firm in front of this king, this tyrant. That what did he do? He displayed one of what the Prophet ﷺ, tells us, the greatest form of jihad. What is the greatest form of jihad? The Prophet ﷺ says in an authentic narration that when he was asked what type of jihad is the best, and the Prophet ﷺ said, the best type of jihad is a word of truth being uttered in front of a tyrannical ruler or an oppressive ruler. When pressure is against you, when the world is against you, you uttering a word of truth before an oppressive force, that is the greatest jihad. So Namrud, he was, dumbstruck. He was, shocked because he couldn't answer anything. So he immediately dispersed because he believed that he humiliated himself enough. And he said, leave the place, you're exiled, you go away from me, you're not going to come back. Right? And that is what he said to Ibrahim alayhi salam. And now Ibrahim alayhi salam knew. He tried everything that he can. He tried his logical arguments, his intellect, his everything. However, nothing worked. Even he tried to destroy the idols, but nothing worked. So what did he do? He packed up his bags and then he decided to leave the land altogether. And he's decided to emigrate. And among the people who believed in him were two people. As mentioned, two people believed in him. The first among the people is Lut alayhi salam. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فآمن له لوط قال إني مهاجر إنه هو العزيز. So Lut alayhi salam believed in him. And Ibrahim said, I am emigrating in obedience to my Lord. He alone is indeed the Almighty and One. He realized that he could not practice and preach anything anymore. So he needed to make a change. He had to leave the land. He had to leave his homeland for the sake of Allah, so his religion will be established. And then he migrated, along with his nephew Nuh alayhi salam and his wife Sarah, to a land that we are very familiar with, to a land that we speak of every single day, to a land that we want liberated, to a land that our heart is in. Even though we live in different lands, our heart is in this land, and that is the land of Palestine. And that is where he next immigrated to. And next, what comes next is a story so grand and a story so beautiful. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam has to now deal with his new journey. His journey is a journey of relationship, of love and care and sacrifice. A journey of relationship, close relationship with his own family, which was his nephew and his wife Sarah alayhi salam. And in the next episode and episodes to come, we will definitely think about and understand and realize how noble was this man when it comes to being a noble husband, a noble character, a noble man. And before we continue further, and before we conclude this session, Die snack. It's all up to you, man. Snack, yeah, Die. Oh, he left. Okay, man. Let me bring him back. Okay, never mind. So Die had an interesting point, but he wanted me to mention. So Die said, when it comes back to the point of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he left his land, why did he leave the land in the first place? It was due to many reasons. Because number one, if you look at it in a subjective manner, in a subjective perspective, you will understand that he left his place because he wanted peace and happiness. He wanted to practice and preach. More than preach, practice alone. He wanted a place free of oppression, free of restrictions. And the second point that he wanted me to mention is pure obedience to Allah. Obedience at its very core, it was so grand and beautiful that he knew that in order to obey Allah more, in order to bring more people to Islam, in order to spread this faith and religion, he had to believe in his Lord. And to do that, he had to migrate, he had to push himself through a journey of hardship and pain, physical hardship. However, little do you and I know that his journey of hardship does not end there. He made an intention to migrate, he made an intention to do hijrah, but his intention is about to be tested now in the story that is yet to come. And the following story that comes is a story of honor and nobility. And what is to come the next session, which is definitely going to be held very soon, inshallah tomorrow or the day after maybe. Now we will cover is how Ibrahim Islam was as an noble husband. And what we will use to understand this more is that we will use an external source. So we will use a book that is exclusive to Firdaus, that was created by our server owner, Abdul, a student of knowledge, in collaboration with some shayukh. The book about marriage, the book about a noble husband and a noble wife. We'll be using this book as a lens to understand the story of Sarah alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam. because these sessions, we're not just going through the stories, we are understanding the wisdom to the minute detail, to the very core, right? And this brings us to the end of this episode. There's more that we could expand, but I believe this is enough, right? And just stay tuned for the next episode. And I hope that you guys have understood everything in a deeper perspective. And now, inshallah, just we're leaving this for the Q&A. You can ping me in your channels, male events or female events, and I'll answer your questions as related to the event or etc. Okay. Is Brendan here? Let me see, Brendan. Hi, is Brendan is here? Okay, I'll answer your question, Brendan. Now, in this Hashun scenario, you need to do best as human beings, as a coping mechanism, always believing and going forward. Just to reject him and just try your best, and you can always do it. I'll send you. I'll send you a VM. And this is something that I want you guys to do is, can someone send me the Z link and just ping me in the chat in the server? Okay. If you look at side chat, right? So we have a specific Google Doc, a Google form that I want you guys to fill. So this Google form, what it does, it allows us to understand how you as an audience feel in these events. Because what we want is we want you to connect to these events more than we coming up and speaking. Because this is your server, this is your event. What we do is what you want. And this event was anticipated, it wanted to be done by so many people. That's why we do this. So just leave all your reviews, leave all your feedback, and inshallah, we will definitely make changes to make you happy, because making you guys happy is what makes us happy as a council and the staff team alone. So I want you guys to just send me the Start Academy link really quick. Just ping me in some the chat. Give me a second. Okay. While we wait, I want you guys to ask any questions, anything that I have in your chats. I'll open up the side chat. And most just watch out for free mixing. I just want you guys to ask any questions or anything that you have related to today's event. Inshallah. And if you guys don't have any questions, I just want you to do you like today's event? So how do you feel like today's event was, how do you feel about it? Just drop us a review inside chat. Inshallah. Let me check some chat. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yes, definitely. So we have, we already started the Sirah series on Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's going to continue. So very soon, our brother died. Amazing brother, right? May Allah bless him. Always keep him happy. I mean, so he's starting his Sirah lectures again. So what he does is that he will have a session. I'll just send the link. Just give me a second. I'll send the link of the event inside chat. So I want you guys to be interested. What he does is that he will go in deep. He will just summarize everything that happened so far. I think it's going to happen tomorrow. Be the show. Just that he will go deep, inshallah, and just get good knowledge of that. So that is the link for the Sira event. And tomorrow we're gonna have, definitely at this time, the time that this event started, we're gonna explore the next topic, the next episode. That is a noble husband and wife. And we're definitely thinking of doing are the prophets. I want you guys to give us suggestions. What prophet should we do next? Because they're already doing Ibrahim alayhi salam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Which prophet do you want us to do next? Is your session, is your service. Go on. Anything you want, inshallah. Isa alayhi salam, amazing. And by the way, for the females, there is an event. We talk about the male section, about manhood, about Ibrahim alayhi salam and everything general. So what the females are doing, an amazing job so far, is that they will be highlighting on the wives of Ibrahim alayhi salam, because we try to derive the lessons of Ibrahim alayhi salam as a man. So what they will do, the females will do, is that they're going to go deeper into analyzing the lives of Sarah alayhi salam and Hajar alayhi salam. And the first episode I think was done yesterday. I think it was an amazing episode from what I've heard, alhamdulillah. So just feel free to just check it out, right? There's one more thing I want you to highlight. When it comes, this is specifically to the men, the boys. Listen to me. Ibrahim alayhi salam, like, he's a man, right? He is a person who reached the epitome of manhood. But how do you achieve manhood? Because manhood is not something that you gain. It is not something that is given to you or gifted to you or that you need to preserve. Rather, manhood is something that you need to gain, you need to go after, you need to search after. Not every male is a man. And not every man, but every man is a man. However, there could be a person 60 years old and still not be a man. A boy or young teenager, 14 or 15 years old, and they could be a man. What is the difference? How do you achieve man? Manhood is it's amazing in a way that it takes so much for you to gain manhood, but it only takes so little for you to lose them. We will cover that next episode. The very moment, because manhood is being reliable, having other people rely on you. It is being generous. It is sacrifice, self-control, everything that the Prophet said. However, the moment when a person loses reliability on you, the person cannot rely on you, when you become less generous, when you raise your hand against women or your family member, in their eyes and in the all other, it takes years and years and years, but only a second to lose. And that is how fascinating manhood is. And every day you are given a choice. Do what a man does, or just do what a man does, believe in Allah, and be a man of this ummah who can actually protect the people. Be a man like Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when in a generation where people ask their father, why don't people like Umar exist nowadays? Do our women not give birth to people like Umar? The answer is the people like Umar are here. They're everywhere. Well, the only thing is the people like Umar are distracted by either they're still not in the position of attaining that level. Because every man, whether you're the weakest or the strongest, you have the ability to achieve manhood, to achieve the position of a true man. But what matters the most is, are you ready to do that? That is a choice. And definitely Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, definitely we're going to do next, inshallah, with Prophet Isa alayhi salam, and we'll definitely think about it. And this brings up to a next thing. Something that we need to know that is obligatory upon us is knowledge. That we need knowledge to move on with our life. Without knowledge, we are just innocent sheep without a flock. And we are exposed to the flocks and the packs of wolves. Right? That is what we are, an innocent sheep, an innocent meat for the people of misguidance to prey on. So if you want to gain knowledge, the basic knowledge that every student of knowledge needs when it comes to basic Arabic, when it comes to Aqidah, when it comes to fiqh, when it comes to everything. That academy, really honorable, prestigious academy that we have today. You can check the link out. So they have a free 2-year course, an amazing 2 years complete. Classes start in August, and I want you guys go visit this Zan Academy and just subscribe to it or just and there will be events and inshallah we're going to relate with Zan Academy. So just stay tuned for that, stay hyped for that. And if you want to know more about inshallah, and there's more things as yet to happen, right? So I think this brings us to the end. So before we end this, one more question. Do you learn anything today? What do you learn today? There's one you got one thing. So maybe I could learn something. Maybe someone else could learn something from you guys. Anything. So let's share one thing that you learned. Well, one thing that you learned from this session. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yes. Am I liking? Am I liking, guys? Just let me know inside chat. Am I liking? Oh, I am. Just give me a second. Right back. Oh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You guys hear me now? Void, shush. Do you guys hear me? Am I lagging? Anything else? Hatif, what do you learn? Okay, amazing. Perfect. What do you learn, Hatif? Okay, amazing. Put together, yes. That is beautiful. Alhamdulillah. Akbar. Anything else? Can we wait for someone else and then inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ismail, my brother. How you been, bro? It's been a long time. How's your situation? How's your life been in the war? I want you guys to make dua for my brother Ismail. He's going through a really tough time in a situation of violence in his nation, in his country. Just make dua for him for his safety. He's doing jihad right now against his own. He's fighting for his family and his own stuff. So may Allah just make it easy for him. Ameen. That's amazing, Mariam. That's really amazing. And yes, the event is being recorded. So, okay, I think this brings us end. Just make it off. Ismail is an amazing brother. So, we're ending this episode today. So tomorrow, I believe there's going to be I forgot the term, 2 events. The recap session by Dai for the Sierra and the next episode. I have the too much. Just come for the event. Alright then. May Allah bless you all for joining today's event, for paying attention, for staying until the very end. May Allah bless you all. So, here we go. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.